These 5 AIs got a mission worthy of group therapy. Choosing the 11 best players in the history of the Spanish national team. Yes, some picks are unanimous, but there are also debates intense enough to make 2 fans of the same team argue. So without wasting time, let's jump straight into the first member of this XI. And for the manager, the Chinese AI wasn't creative at all. But it was very logical. Vicente del Bosque, the architect of Spain's most glorious era. World Cup champion in 2010, Euro champion in 2012. A professional ego manager and completely obsessed with possession football. The guy turned Spain into a machine that put rivals to sleep with endless passing. And by the way, he's the only coach who has ever led Spain to a World Cup title. Not bad, right? But Google's AI said, hold on a second, and went with Luis Aragonés, the man responsible for resetting the mindset of an entire national team. His Euro 2008 run didn't just end a 44-year title drought. It created the winning atmosphere that later allowed Spain to conquer the world. Basically, he's the wise grandfather behind the golden generation. The rest of the AIs didn't want to complicate things and voted for Vicente del Bosque, so he keeps the spot in this 11. Moving on to the goalkeeper. And here there was no debate, no drama, no plot twist. Every single AI chose the same guy. Iker Casillas, the eternal guardian, the man who saved Spain even on days when the team didn't play well. 167 caps between 2000 and 2016, only Sergio Ramos has more. And he kept 102 clean sheets. That's over 100 games without conceding a goal. No discussion needed. Iker Casillas walked straight into the team. Now let's move to the right back spot. Gemini and DeepSeek actually agreed for once and went with Jose Antonio Camacho. He owned that right flank in the 80s, with 81 appearances and participation in 2 World Cups and 2 European Championships. But on the other side, Grok and ChatGPT decided to go modern and picked Dani Carvajal, the very definition of the current standard for Spain's right-back position. His impact on recent titles and his consistency put him a level above. And sure, legends like Michel Salgado or Camacho himself have more years on the resume, but Carvajal has something special. He shows up in finals and fits perfectly into any modern system. So the final word went to LeChat, and it didn't hesitate. Dani Carvajal takes the spot in this XI. Let's move on to the center backs. And here, the AIs didn't even bother arguing. Grok picked someone who, honestly, absolutely had to be here. Sergio Ramos, the most capped defender in Spain's history and the highest scoring defender in international football. With La Roja, he completed the full journey. Started as a right back, ended as a dominant center back, and left behind a highlight reel of goals, leadership, and tackles that would scare anyone. Physicality, aerial dominance, personality, clutch moments, Ramos had it all. He was a rock from 2005 well into the next decade and a key pillar in the era of the 3 major titles. The rest of the AIs didn't have much to think about. They all voted for Sergio Ramos. So he joins the team as the first center back. And for the second center back, the decision was just as simple. There was one name that simply couldn't be left out, and every AI saw it crystal clear. Carles Puyol, the heart of the defense. The guy who played every match as if it were a Champions League final. His goal in the 2010 World Cup semifinal against Germany is part of Spain's football DNA. Puyol is courage, honesty, and an intensity that made you tired just watching him. On top of that, he formed an unbreakable partnership with Ramos. It was like having 2 security chiefs at the door. Nobody was getting through. It couldn't be any other way. Carles Puyol completes the center back duo. But now let's move to the left side of the defense. DeepSeek decided to pull out its time machine and head into the past to choose Joan Segarra, the captain of that first great Spanish side. A respectable choice, but the rest of the AIs didn't agree at all. Grok, meanwhile, went straight for the obvious, Jordi Alba. And honestly, how could it be anyone else? Jordi Alba is probably the most dynamic and attack-minded left-back Spain has ever had. A player who combined speed, solid defending, and surgical assists, playing a key role both in the final years of the golden generation and in the transition that followed. We're talking 93 caps and 10 goals between 2011 and 2023, plus being the starting left back of that Spain that shined with pressing, possession, and devastating offensive runs. And truthfully, the rest of the AIs couldn't vote any other way. They all chose him. So Jordi Alba is the one who completes the defense. In the midfield, the AIs didn't overthink things either. For the defensive midfielder role, ChatGPT picked Sergio Busquets. And honestly, who else was it going to be? The silent pillar of Spain's midfield. The guy who made tiki-taka work without needing a single dramatic gesture. Balance, tactical intelligence, quiet recoveries, and ball distribution that looked like it was guided by GPS. 143 caps for Spain and a starter in all 3 major titles. None of the AIs debated this. Every single one of them went straight for him. Sergio Busquets joins the team without discussion. Let's go to the next one. And here, the AI had it even clearer. Xavi Hernandez swept every single vote, and for good reason. The compass of positional play, the perfect turn, the perfectly timed pause, the line-breaking pass that took your breath away. He was the mastermind who led Spain to its first great modern title, winning Player of the Tournament at Euro 2008, and then repeating his magic in 2010 and 2012, controlling the team's rhythm as if he had a built-in metronome. His legacy is simple: absolute control of time and space. Xavi takes the spot, and it's more than deserved. And today, the AIs showed up in zero debate mode, because for the attacking midfielder role, the decision was unanimous again: Andres Iniesta. And of course, how could you leave out the man who scored the most important goal in the history of Spanish football? That strike in the 2010 final changed everything. His dribbling, his vision, and his ability to appear exactly when you needed him most make him absolutely indispensable. Iniesta might just have the highest emotional and sporting impact of them all. Let's move to the attack. And for the left winger position, Grok didn't want to take any risks and went with the safe choice, David Silva. A textbook false winger, with that associative instinct that can create a goal just by raising an eyebrow. At Euro 2012, he opened the final with a header after a spectacular team move. Between 2006 and 2018, he racked up 125 caps and 35 goals. Basically, pure fluency. Euro 2008, World Cup 2010, Euro 2012, he was part of everything. But LeChat said, hold on, and voted for David Villa. But don't worry, El Guaje will get his own special chapter later because there's a lot of history to talk about there. On the other hand, ChatGPT decided to travel back in time and picked Paco Gento. An absolute icon of the classic winger, speed, dribbling, and that ability to stretch the field that made the striker, and any midfielder arriving from behind, very happy. Gento practically invented the template of what we now consider a traditional left winger. In the end, the rest of the AIs backed Grok's choice and voted for David Silva. So he keeps the spot as the left winger. And on the other side of the attack, Gemini simply couldn't leave out David Villa, the all-time top scorer of the Spanish national team, the offensive reference point of the entire golden era. Golden Boot at Euro 2008, decisive at the 2010 World Cup. The guy was so effective it felt like he had a built-in magnet for the goal. Simply put, the most lethal forward Spain has ever had. But LeChat, staying true to its habit of going against the current, voted for Pedro Rodriguez. And to be fair, there's a real case there. Pedro started both the semifinal and the final in the 2010 World Cup. Del Bosque used him because his pressing, his runs, and his almost video game level tactical awareness gave the team something no one else could offer. It was like having a player who knew exactly where to stand every single second. Still, the debate didn't last long because the rest of the AIs were much more straightforward and voted for David Villa. So he joins the team as the right winger. And before jumping to the substitutes, let's talk about the center forward. And here, Grok didn't hesitate for even a second. Fernando Torres, Spain's most recognizable striker, the man behind iconic goals in finals that literally changed history. With 110 appearances and 38 goals between 2003 and 2014, he scored the winner in the Euro 2008 final and finished as the Golden Boot winner at Euro 2012. A very strong choice. But Gemini said, not so fast, and threw in the name Raul Gonzalez, captain, symbol, idol of the 90s and early 2000s. For a long time, he was Spain's all-time top scorer. He didn't win titles, true, but his generational impact, leadership, and those 44 goals in 102 games make him, according to Gemini, a name that simply cannot be ignored. And LeChat, staying true to its habit of surprising everyone, pulled out a name with more dust on it than a VHS from '97, Telmo Zarra, a monster from the 1950s who was Spain's top scorer for decades. 20 goals in just 22 matches. Absolutely insane for that era. But none of that convinced ChatGPT and DeepSeek, who were much more straightforward. Fernando Torres. So El Nino keeps the number 9 spot on this team. Now, to make sure no one gets left out, let's move on to the substitutes. For the backup goalkeeper, 2 strong names showed up, David De Gea and Andoni Zubizarreta. And in the end, Zubi gets the spot. He was the most consistent and durable goalkeeper in Spain's history before the golden era arrived. Basically, he was there holding things together when no one else wanted to be. For the defenders, one name was absolutely clear, Gerard Piqué. And the second one, well, the AIs debated that a little. Capdevila here, Arbella there. But in the end, the one who ends up on the bench is the already mentioned Jose Antonio Camacho. In the midfield, there wasn't much mystery either. 2 names stood out above the rest. Xabi Alonso, with 114 caps, a starter in the 2010 World Cup final and in Euro 2012, a truly privileged football mind. And the other was Cesc Fabregas, the famous 12th starter of the golden era. 110 caps and a crucial penalty against Italy in Euro 2008 that literally changed history. And up front, it was the same story. 2 names that were simply impossible to leave out. The already mentioned Pedro Rodriguez, and the other one that absolutely had to be there, Raul Gonzalez. What do you think of this 11? Drop your thoughts in the comments, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next video here on More Than Football.